Hello, everyone. Harry Wright here with a legend in local media. We've got Mac Dew with us. How are you doing today, Mac?
Oh, all right. Got a lot of problems. I'm all right.
Good. Now, there's a lot of people out there who are the younger generation might be saying, Mac Dews, who's that? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born, not hatched. I'm 87 years old. That's pretty old.
That's a nice long life, yes?
Yes. But I've done a lot of things. Got to where to even start. I played football, baseball in high school
Where'd you go to high school?
here at Washington Courthouse. And then I went to college at Ohio State. I didn't like it up there, so I quit and joined the Marines.
What year did you join the Marines, Mac?
Yeah. Joined the Marines, was there for a couple of years. Came back, we got married while I was on leave, and we had a baby, one girl, and that's the only one we ever had. Marriage lasted about 22 years, and I got divorced. We got divorced, I should say. I was single for 7 years. Then I met my present wife, and been married for 42 years.
42 years. Congratulations. That's probably your greatest accomplishment, isn't it?
I don't know about that. Anyway, I spent a lot of years in the real estate business with my father. I never liked the business, but then I was in it for 40 years. And when my father passed away, I locked the doors and walked out, and we moved to Arizona.
And life in Arizona is hot and dry, isn't it?
Oh, I love Arizona. I would stay there this day, except we had no family out there, and it's just my wife and I. We have friends, but not people that could take care of you when you're old. So we decided the best, our family's here, her kids are here, my daughter's here. So we decided to move back. And here we are.
Now, quite a few years ago, you had a tie-in with Channel 3 here in Washington Courthouse. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, when they first started putting cable TV in Washington Courthouse, I went into the office down on Court Street, Court Cable they called it, and wanted to sign up for cable for my house. And the girl said, "Who are you?" And I told her who it was, and some man's voice in the back said, "Is that Mac Dews?" And I said, "Yeah." "Don't leave. Oh, I want to see you." I said, "Okay." So I signed up for the cable, and then I went back to the office. Ken Arnold is his name. And he said, "Don't you do radio on sports or radio?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Well," he said, "I like your voice." He said, "We're going to do an experiment. We're going to videotape the parade in town. Would you do the voiceover on that?" I said, "Sure." So anyway, so I did, and that hooked me.
A legend was born, wasn't it, right there?
Yeah. So anyway, so we had a big discussion. We got talking about local origination. Excuse me, I have a phlegm keeps on my throat all the time. So anyway, we went to Dayton with Ken and to a guy named I forget his name now. Anyway, he had a business with closed circuit television stuff. So we bought 2 black and white cameras, control center, audio equipment, and all I knew about it was when to get a crowbar and take it out of the box. That's all I knew about it.
I can relate to that, yes.
So anyway, we did. We unpacked it. I had no idea what to do after I got it unpacked. There, lays on the floor. Now what? So the guys came down from Dayton and set it up for me, put it together. You know, I never did get it paid for. I ran out of money, and the guys had to write it off. And that was the whole story of Channel 3. Well, Channel 3 is not me. I was never Channel 3. That belongs to the cable company. I was J-Mac Television Productions Incorporated. I had a partner named Jack Evans. And that's why we call it J-Mac. And it was J-Mac TV that we got ourselves incorporated, J-Mac Inc. And we started programming, and boy, it was awful. It was awful. But we finally got the kinks run out. But I had big ideas. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. But when I went around to local businesses for ads, they just looked at me and laughed.
No funding. They didn't want to back the program.
And I was strictly commercial. I had no outside source of money at all except my own money.
Right.
And I put a lot of my own money in it and lost it all.
But now, also, you said you had some experience with game callings. Tell us about your experience with calling sports.
Well, there was a restaurant downtown on Fayette Street, right, pretty much across from the police station. Forget what they call it now. Anyway, two guys owned it, and one of them was doing the tape. Because WCHO was only AM then. No,
Right.
Yeah. So it went off the air at sundown. Okay. Anyway, this guy, I was in there getting a cup of coffee one day, and he said, "Back," he said, "You like sports? Do me a favor, will you?" I said, "What do you do?" Forget the guy's name now. He said he was doing the play, and he said, "I need somebody down on the sidelines with a telephone to tell me who made a tackle, who made a block, who this. Would you do that?" "Oh, I'd love to do that." So I went in and did it. So I did that a couple of games, and one Friday morning I got a telephone call from WCHO. It said, "Mac, I got a problem." I said, "What?" He said, "Well," I said, "the announcer ran off with his girlfriend. Nobody knows where he is." So he never seen him again.
So you became the announcer.
Well, I became the announcer over just like that. The first game was at Greenfield. They had no press box. So I had to climb a pole. I'm hanging on a pole with one arm and a microphone in the other arm, and a program in my fingers. Hanging on this pole, hanging on a pole the whole ball game. That's how I got started.
Your very first game was a baptism of fire, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah. Anyway, so then we finally got that straightened out. So, but up else I went and had a press box, and I could be here for 4 hours and tell you stories. So I ain't gonna do that. But some of the things I think of was at a game someplace up in Franklin County, small school, and ran a press box, and a lot of times they'll turn the lights on, half on before the game, then turn them all on when the game starts, which is a good idea, save electricity. Up there, and it's getting pretty close to game time. And there's a guy I've been in the suit and all. I says, "When are they going to turn the rest of the lights on?" The guy says, "This is the lights." "You can't get a TV picture with this kind of light." "Well, that's all there is." So I did radio in the shadows, what it was boiled down to.
Radio in the shadows.
Couldn't even see the game. I couldn't even see it hardly. It was so dim. It was awful. That was one experience. And,
What was the best sporting event in your eye and in your mind that you were a part of that you got to see and call?
probably the playoffs. Late in my career, when we played somebody up in one of the big schools up in northern Ohio, northwestern Ohio, and they beat us. Therefore, John Thomas was the quarterback, and also I think. Oh, shoot. Well, anyway, John got hurt in the very first quarter. And I kept saying, we're going to get, these guys were giants. John weighed about 130 pounds. And he got smashed. And then it just got getting worse and worse and worse. But that was a really exciting game because it was, so important. It's an important game.
Now, was it more fun to be a part of the sports, or was it more fun to be a part of Channel 3?
Well, sports is my forte, always was. And the program that I did on Country Western Joke, I call it that. People liked it, I don't know. They got a lot of call-ins wanting songs played. But I did it because I couldn't afford to hire anybody else. So I had to do it myself. And I didn't know what to do. I can't sing. I can't dance. So I had to do something like that. So I did a mimic. I memorized all the words, and I could, turn my mic off and sing. And people thought I was singing, sound like Dolly Parton. They said, yeah.
So you were actually Milli Vanilli before Milli Vanilli ever come along.
Oh, yes, way back. Yes.
You might have been the guy that invented lip syncing.
Oh, I lip sync. Oh, yes.
Well, that's very interesting. Right here in Washington Courthouse, lip syncing could have been invented. Back in the 80s, there was probably people lip syncing before you.
I don't know. I thought about it.
But how fun was that? And I noticed during your show, the cowboy hats, you would change them. How did that come about?
Spontaneous, just something you thought of and you did it. Well, you had to look country western, so the hat was the symbol of a country western singer, performer. So I had to do something to get in the groove of it. And I don't know, those things just came out. I can't explain why.
Well, it was very entertaining. You can see them on our website at fakecam.org. You can check those out. And it's an hour long. It's very entertaining, with all the hats stacked up in front, and it looks like you had. Was that a curtain behind you, or a sheet, or a blanket?
It was I changed it. It was wallpaper for a while, and then it was just a big sheet, like a board, and then I pinned pictures of Country Western stars on it, and that thing there was like a curtain there, that checkered thing there in that picture. Just things you think of to do to try to make it more entertaining or more authentic.
So when you were on the air on Channel 3 and doing the sports, when you went out in public, as soon as you talked, people knew who you were, didn't they?
I guess, yeah. I had a distinctive voice, I guess you could say. I was in church out in Arizona, and some lady in front of me, and I can't sing. But I was singing the hymns, and this lady told me and says, "Ma, you got a beautiful voice." I said, "Uh-huh." She said, you should have been a sports announcer." I said, "I was." She said, "Well, you sound like one."
See, it was perfect calling for you then, wasn't it?
I guess, yeah.
Now, we got some young people out there watching today, Mac, and you know, in your experience in your life, and as you've had a lot, what kind of advice would you give our young people for today?
Education. Education. You got educated, where you go?
It can take you anywhere, can't
Yeah,
it?
that gets a black wall. Okay. I don't have a lot of formal education, but in my day, it wasn't as important as it is today. And back then, you learn by experience. You make a mistake, you learn by it. Sometimes.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes you don't.
Right, and then you make it again. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. That is, but education, good advice. There you have it, folks. Right now, really, education. Stay in school, get your education, listen to mom and dad. One of the things that we want to talk about before we end our visit today, and what a great time I've had with you, by the way. Tell us about your election coverage.
Well, that was the only show we had that really sponsors were jumping on it. What they wanted done. Well, we had studio and we had a paper on one whole wall and a lot of little tickets. And my good friend Marvin Cook, who passed away here a while back, was the guy that did the pins on the wall. And Marianne Osborne, who was WCHO star for a long time, and I. Then we had my wife downtown and my stepdaughter downtown, and at the election board, and used Mark and Mustein's real estate office for a telephone deal. And very nice of them to let me do that, since I was a competitor there in the real estate business. Anyway, so anyway, the people would get the results from the board of elections, and then they'd run into Mark and Mustein's and give them the dope, and Mark and Mustein would call the studio, and somebody out in the office would take the call. Then they'd bring out the results and give it to Marvin. He'd write on the board and stick it up on the wall. Then he'd take the microphone and say, "Well, Joe, so you got this many votes," and so on and so forth. So, but I decided later on not to quit doing the national returns, because that's on television anyway. We have to do it any kind of Washington courthouse. We can't elect anybody the president here. So we just tried to stick with more local county commissioners and city council and whatever else, dog catcher, whatever where it was. But that was really a hectic thing. And the first time we did that, we didn't have a studio. It was in November, cold. So we set up outside with the cameras, lights, and you remember Ganelle Willis, Dick Willis's wife. We had a blackboard out there, and we had a bucket of water, ice in it practically, and we'd write up on the blackboard, and then she'd erase it off and wipe it off with a wet thing. She got her foot caught in this bucket of water. And anyway, it was a riot doing it outdoor. Wind blowing, your papers all over the place. And I mean, we did it all. We did Miss Matrix.
That's sounds so much different than what our coverage is today, with the one exception. We too here at WCHO in town, we too concentrate on just the local returns, because, like you said, you're going to get the national returns and the state returns from the major news networks, but you won't find out who won County Commissioner of Fayette County
Yeah.
from the major news networks.
right,
You
yeah,
find that
yeah.
out from us.
Yeah, that was the whole idea of the thing. But I still get back to my forte with sports, and still is. I love it. I'd love to get back in the broadcast booth again and do some games. But I'm thinking more now. We'll just discuss it before we went on the air of a sports show. I could even have a call-in show, and I go out like I did before and interview the coaches, maybe Trace, Washington, talk to the players. Maybe get them on to come in the studio and interview one of the players, and give them local results of things, the Reds and the Indians and the Bengals and the Browns and Blue Lions and the Panthers, and that's kind of show I had in mind.
When you climbed that pole many years ago to do that game, you got hooked, didn't you?
Oh yes,
It hooks us all, this business. It really does, folks. Whether you're in the TV business or the radio business, you get hooked, and you always want to be a part of it. I really want to thank you for your service to our country, and I also want to thank you for coming in and visiting with us today, Mac. It has been
glad
a
to be here.
pleasure.
Enjoy it very much. When's you gonna play it back?
We hope to see you many times in the future, and we'll get this on the air so that you can see it, and everybody in the area that says, hey, that's Mac Dews.
He's back. Huh. Okay.